It's more fortunate they record it so you can see it later.
Yeah.
And on that note, the board is green.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming tonight. I think you're going to enjoy this. I really do appreciate you coming. Tell your friends. If this is one of your first times here, please use the chat function to give Dylan your name, what scale you model, and your email address, and we'll include you on the email list to notify you of the future events. I'd like to talk a minute here about the train show that we're doing on Zoom on September the 19th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We now have 17 companies, slots that have been filled for the show. And we've still got some companies that we have not heard from yet. So we're really pleased with the first show having the kind of commitment that we're getting from the manufacturers. And these are all small firms, basically. These are not the Lionels or the Bachmans. That's not who we invited. These are basically the smaller manufacturers out there. And that's who we're trying to cater to and to get involved with. We think that they deserve our support for bringing their talent and bringing products to the market, and we want to do everything we can to try to support them and try to help them any way we can. So I'm really pleased about that, and I just can't say enough for the firms that are committed to us and are trusting us enough to put on this first show. The next thing I'd like to mention to you is we're going to offer training classes, two different kinds of two different times for modelers that aren't familiar with Zoom. It's amazing to me. I recently posted on different groups that I belong to about the train show, and I got about 20, 25 comments back from different people asking me where the train show was going to be held. And so announcing it it was going to be a Zoom event, obviously, I'm just not communicating, with people who are familiar with the concept of Zoom or have used it or understand what it can do for them. So what Dylan is going to do is offer 2 dates where people can come and find out about the train show, but most importantly, maybe get exposed to how to use Zoom and therefore to be a part of this, because it does no good for them to be interested in the train show if they don't know how to get there at the end of the day. So I don't know any other thing to do than to offer the training for them. And what I'm interested in getting feedback on from the people that are here tonight is what that training ought to consist of. I mean, I had never thought that saying that we're going to hold a Zoom train show would elicit where is the train show going to be. So with that said, what kind of training should we be offering? I mean, what do we tell them? It's an app and how to download the app? I mean, any ideas or comments would sure be appreciated.
I think the biggest thing is just have some Zoom meetings that they can come in and take a look at how it works. Because I never knew what Zoom was until I finally attended one of the meetings you had. Got to remember, a lot of these guys barely know how to do Facebook. So now you're trying to get them into Zoom. It's a whole nother ball game.
Well, that's what I'm finding out. That's why. How did you get here? I mean, what training would we have given, or how would we have talked to you to get you? Obviously, you got here somehow.
Well, I have heard of Zoom before, and so then I heard that you were doing these, so that's how I got to here. Okay. But this is the whole thing where, the parents of young kids know what Zoom is because they're using it for school. The grandparents, who our group is, don't. And like I say, they barely know how to do Facebook. Some of them barely figured out that Facebook's for more than just looking at the grandkids. So it's one of those things you just have to hold a couple of meetings and tell people to come and check it out. And this is how we're going to be doing a virtual train show. And come take a look.
Gotcha. All right, Dylan, let's go with that and see what we get back in response.
I like it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yep.
Create too many people on Zoom, and now you have to buy a bigger license.
Just our luck.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, that's it for me. It's really my honor to introduce Andrew Keeney tonight. Andrew is really a talented modeler, a dedicated model railroader, and he's going to talk to us about his modeling, some of his techniques that he's used. He has a rather large, to say the least, railroad, and it's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to see a lot of it tonight. But Andrew, if you enjoy tonight and you have fun, I hope you'll consider coming back maybe in the future, and we'll just concentrate on seeing your railroad operate a little bit. How would that be, maybe?
No, I'd love that. But operations-wise, running is going to be a while. We've got a heck of a mess in there. Putting carpeting in, and I've just got stuff from on the floor and just under the layout up on all the layout itself, you know, safely, so it's not damaging anything, but it's going to be a while before they're running. But,
well, maybe you can maybe come back and just talk to us about it and show us around the place maybe and see how that goes. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you whenever you're ready.
Okay, no, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So, well, yeah, and just call me Andy. And the Nashville Road, well, there you can see behind me now. The Nashville Road is a layout I've been working on for 20 years. And just give you a little background, I designed the first design as a single deck. And it had a lot of railroad on it, but not much running outside of the major yards and the industries and that. And I went to see, I believe it was John DePauw's railroad, and he had multiple decks. And so I came back and I redesigned mine and put a second deck on it. So I had a nice long run into the major area where the switching was and everything. And then the other side, it went right into staging. And then I went to see Bruce Chubb, who lives about an hour to the west of me, and he had multiple decks. He had good 3 decks there. So I came back and I added a third deck, and that allows me to run out of the city the other direction. So we've got 2 nice long runs and a lot of city industrial switching and such in the middle. So that's why I ended up designing, and I've been working on it ever since. And very little of it is really finished. I've got a lot of, or had a lot of plywood central, still do. But something I'm going to, the PowerPoint tonight is going to show you what you can do to get away from the plywood central look quickly. And you can do it. So it looks, to me, to my eye, it looks pretty nice, but you can go back later and add a lot more scenery to it as you need to. One of the things I want to start out with, though, is everybody has their own idea of what looks good and what they want. So as I'm describing this, don't take anything I say as this is what you have to do. It's just my idea of what works for me. And I've modified other people's work, their thoughts and that, and got it where I wanted it, and I'm happy with it. And some people follow that, and some take some of my ideas and change it, and that's great. I love the hobby because we can share, and to me, that's a big part of it, is your friends sharing and having a good time. So nothing I do here is meant to be, this is mine, and you know, I own the ideas. I don't own the ideas. All these ideas that we have come from somebody else. So never feel bad about using other people's ideas. And if you do use someone's ideas, you can always, you know, use their, you know, give their name, give them credit for it, but they probably got it from somebody else. So anyways, it might take me a sec here to go share screen. Let's see, if I screw up, one of you experts can help me here. Play PowerPoint, I think. Nope, that's not the one I want. So stop share. Let me go back again. Oh, it's this one right here. Here we go. Okay, I got to back this up just a little bit. Well, that's not going to work. It's not letting me make a change. Okay. Now we got to bring you guys back in. There we go. Still not working right. Who's an
This is
expert
right.
here? I want.
No, you've got the PowerPoint, the whole PowerPoint up right there. With all
Oh,
the,
wait a minute. I gotta go down here. There we go. One little thing I forgot. Okay. I'm going to reduce the pictures up in the corners there. All right. So can everybody see this okay?
oh yeah.
Okay, good. And there's not that many people here. So if you have a question, just you just call out, you know, Andy, or say you have a question, if that's okay with Jim.
Yeah.
And we can discuss things instead of having to go back and find the slide you're talking about. So, and National Road is my railroad, and the 3 Jeeps you saw, that's the paint scheme we've come up with for it. And one other thing that's kind of interesting, I model 1956. Well, through a couple of friends, I've added or I've collected a large quantity of Alco road power, Centuries, and some of the later Alcos. So we decided, or I've decided, to add a 1968 version. And I have over 30 Centuries and RSD 15s road power that I'm going to start painting as soon as the work in this break room is done and we get the workbench finished and the airbrush station up. So we'll be bouncing back and forth from first generation diesels and steam to 1968 second generation diesel. So I'm kind of excited about that. That does lend some problems where you've got to change the layout a little bit from 56 to 68. We're probably going to keep that to a minimum. Add some automobiles that are newer, take them off when we go back to 56. And I'm not too worried about the freight cars. Majority of freight cars did not change that much. You can still use the older ones. I worked on the C&O in 70, 71 too. And we still had wood reefers at that time coming through Detroit. So you can get away with a lot of that stuff, and it doesn't look bad at all. Okay, so we'll start here. Playing with scenery. This is my idea of what you can do to get yourself a little scenery on your layout, and thinking outside the box helps. So part 1 is backdrop painting, and a friend of mine, some of you might know of him, Chris Lyon. He's done some YouTube videos, and before that he had done some smaller videos that I had received from Pete Magoon, who's a friend of mine up in Traverse City here. He's also our president right now. But Chris created these videos, and Pete picked up from them, and he came down and did a program, a clinic during one of our division meetings. So Pete is here presenting the clinic to all of us. And he had worked with Chris, and Chris was happy to see Pete helping expand the clientele, maybe the people using it, and it's worked out fairly well. So here's a scene. You can see, I'll back it up. That's a scene Pete's working on, and here it is close up. Now, one thing I want to point out to you, then a lot of these scenes, as I show them to you, close up, they don't look good. I don't like them at all close up. But when you get back and you're looking at them from a few feet away, where we normally do, they really expand the backdrop. You're looking at the train going through the scene. And that just makes the backdrop, gives you a lot more depth. So understand that you'll see both close-ups and far away, and it's quite a difference. So the little white, anybody that's in aviation, Pete, I asked him to do a couple of buildings out in the back, and he did a church steeple, but we decided it looked more like a VOR. Both Pete and I were military pilots, and Pete ended up leaving it that way, and I didn't want to get rid of it. I thought it was kind of cute. And then you can see off to the left, those are the first things that I played around with, the rolling hills and the trees close up. And that's how I got started.
What'd you fly?
Hueys in Vietnam, and then after it was Hueys and Cobras. I retired in 2005 after 36 years.
Oh, cool.
So my son followed. He flew Blackhawks for a number of years. Now he's a contractor. He did 20 years in the Army. Now he's overseas teaching Blackhawks to foreign countries. So let's see. Yeah, some things to ponder while you're creating your backdrop. And here again, these are my thoughts. When you paint your blue sky, I would consider not letting the blue get too dark. It might look pretty good when you're looking at the color on a sample or something, but sometimes, and only to my eye, the dark blue takes away from the scene. It's just too blue. Hazy blue to me works a lot better, and it works into the scenery going away, the rolling hills and that. They blend better together. So you want to give some consideration to the blue, and you also kind of clouds. And the clouds here, you can see my mouse okay. The faraway clouds, and these are really hard to see. They didn't show up very good, and I tried taking pictures several times. But you can put them low, and then when you put the hills in, you put the hills partly over the cloud, and then that kind of shows the cloud is past the horizon. It's past the hills, I should say. And then you get a little closer, midway point, you can make the clouds a little bigger. And then when you get close to above you, or not far away, then you can make the clouds a lot bigger. And I like nondescript clouds. I don't like, personally, I don't like clouds that look so distinct that you always remember that cloud, and you know that cloud's in that scene, somewhere on the layout. These are just clouds, and they just kind of disappear into the scene. Okay, the paints that I use and that are recommended by Chris and Pete are Winsor and Newton, and they're made in Paris or in France. I think it is Paris, but they're in a acrylic oil type paint, and they're thick. They come in a tube, and I'll show you a picture here. They come in these tubes, and Winsor is spelt without a D, so it's Winsor. And the ones you'll use most are the cadmium yellow and the Mars black. A little bit of Mars black and a whole lot of cadmium yellow. And you mix them and you get greens with them. And then there's also titanium white I use for the clouds and that. And raw umber can be used for other things. I just put the smaller size tube there. So you've got the small tubes, you got the large tubes. And then I like to use these round brushes you can get in sets. If you go to Michael's or places like that, you can pick these up if you get your 40% off coupon. You can pick them up for several to $10 for a set, and they all work out pretty well. The larger one's better. So round bristle brushes of various sizes, the largest is number 12, and that's what you're going to use the most. And then I like to use chip brushes also, just cheap brushes that they use for cleaning chips off of machinery and that, metal chips, 1 and 2 inch. And then you want an artist palette. And I use a plastic one. Chris liked to use a palette with paper, and he would just peel the paper off when it got messed up, where I'd take my palette and clean it off at the sink and then use it again. So there's the number, oh, let's see, there's 10, 12, 11. There's the different size brushes, and a 1 inch chip and a 2 inch chip. And these paints clean with water, so it makes it kind of nice. Again, I've got a container. I usually have a container like this with water in the bottom, apart from these. So you've got a bunch of brushes available. The paint will build up in the brushes, so you don't want to keep using the same one throughout. And I usually put them in bristles down into the water, and then I clean them later. Now here's a little blurry, this picture, but yellow and black. And you can see where I start mixing them. Now that'll turn more green. You can see the green over here. That's what it looks like. But you want varying colors. You don't want a one solid color, so you don't want to overmix. Now here you can see a little more mixed here, and then I'm starting to dab them in here. And a lot of times they'll come up a little more yellow than you think you want, but you'd be surprised. I'll show you some scenes where I thought it was a little too much yellow, but it worked out pretty good. So now here again, this is ugly, and it's very close up, and I don't like the looks of this close up, but standing back, you'll see a difference. I'll show you here. But what you want to do is you want to jab these brushes into the scene, and that it's the bristles splay out, and then that gives you the effect of trees. So you see how I pushed it into the scene, and you can vary the color. The lighter they go are more to the hills in the back. So you put your background hills in first, and you start building the hills closer to you. If you're going to have hills, you know, it all depends on what you're going to do. Now here's the 2 inch chip brush, and you can see a little more greens in this one. And this allows you, this works out pretty good just for getting your tree line in, the upper line on the horizon. Getting that in, and then you fill in the open area with the round brush. Okay, now here is that same scene. There's those trees, that one hill that didn't look too good, but to my eye, and you're just going by the scene, this works out pretty good. You've got a very dull blue sky, and you've got kind of dull colors here, and just varied from dark to very light, and it gives you a feel for rolling hills and depth, distances. So now I'm going to show you just a few scenes here of some of those rolling hills and that. These trees, I want trees close up, and we hadn't done any of those. Pete hadn't showed it or anything. And after I had the hills behind it, along there, I went in and put a big tree in, and it looked like an explosion, and I thought, oh man, I really screwed up my scene. But I kept working with it, and I think I have some close-ups. Well, maybe not. You might see a close-up in a minute here. But working with it, so you've got varying greens, light to dark, and it looks more and more like leaves on the branches and that. And also little bits of blue through it. You don't fill it up completely, so you see a little sky through it, and it works out pretty good. I'm quite happy with those. And again, as you're working on the trains on the layout, that's just scenery way to the back. Here's just some more scenes of the way I went across the area and just added some rolling hills, and you can do it very fast. Now, the nice thing is, if you don't like it, and I can show you some areas that I'm not happy with, but it's very easy to go back and cover them up with more paint. You can vary them, adjust them, and it's very easy to do, and it just it comes out nicely. Okay, some of these areas, like this little open field here, I'm not really happy with that. I'm going to adjust that some, maybe change the color. This isn't too bad. But again, if I don't like it, I'm just going in with a chip brush and just work that over as I need to. Okay, blending of the colors. Now, this is where these paints are so nice. And you can, by the way, I should point out, there are other paints available, and I have been buying other paints to try them. Basically, you want to try and use a cadmium yellow or medium yellow and Mars black, because Mars black is really blue. So you can try those because these paints can get a little expensive. You can try different variations and see how that works for you. But mostly you don't have as much backdrop as I've got. So, you know, it's not a bad deal, and it works out nice using them. So to me, it's worthwhile, but you can try others also.
Andrew, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Why do you use acrylic oil? Why not just straight acrylic paint?
Well, this, to be truthful with you, this is the type of paint that that Chris used and he recommended. And I'm no expert when it comes to this. I've stuck with what Chris has told me, you know, works for him. And I found it's worked for me fairly well. So that's why I'm just using what I've been told.
I understand.
So, one of the things here I can see, you see some of the blue in there and up in here, little spots. You're looking through the tree and seeing a little blue sky, and you can see how it stops here. But actually here, that rolling hill was put in first. So the tree comes down, and that's where you can't see any more blue behind the tree. And then the other thing for blending, these are all Woodland Scenics greenery, you know, the different greeneries that they have from the dark to the medium and light. And they just blend really well with these colors. So you can extend, and I'll show you a couple more. See, I'll probably go to them now. Yeah, here we go. Now, the problem with this backdrop up here is the lights up above glare on this, and it gives you a real shine. So you don't see it as well as I'd like you to see it here. And also realize this track is almost at eye level, so you're really looking up at this. I'm high to take this picture, but that green there is the paint. And this is paint also, just a rolling field behind it. And then you can see the Woodland Scenics green and see how well it all blends in with it. It varies. I don't know if I like the really dark. I thought about going back and highlighting it a little bit with the paint itself. So you've got some of the darkness, you know, looks like inside the shrubbery. But I'll have the lighter color kind of on the top and around the outside of it. So it'll look a little more like these. So that, well, let's see, I've got some more close-up shots here. Here again, you can see there's quite a glare off the light. And here close up, again, I don't think it looks so pretty, but when you look back, you know, when you get back away from it, it looks completely different. So also this here is something that I'm going to do a clinic on. Let me go back a little more. This is actually concrete expansion joint material. It's kind of fibrous, and it's impregnated with some kind of an oil or creosote. And it's easy to snap and just stack them up, and it gives you some depth. There's some up there not painted. So we'll get past there. Now part 2, creating the landform. Okay, so we got the track down. If you did what I did, I've got mainly plywood with track on it. So some people, they actually put their rolling hills in as they're laying the track. The track is on a roadbed. and then the ground around it can be higher or lower, and that's really a good way to go. That's not the way I went. So I've learned since I built my railroad different things that I'd like to have done different. But now what I have to do is create the hills, and I use blue styrofoam board to create the hills. And then I'll show you what I did to just get a basic scenery look to it, which to me passes as scenery until you can go back and put trees and shrubbery and all the other things you want, all the smaller detail. And I've got many feet on my railroad to do this on 3 decks. And this I did in a fairly short time, a few weeks of work, not full time, of course. And I now have the upper deck basically done, and some base scenery. So let's see, following YouTube video, I just wanted to read this over. The YouTube videos that you can see are really well worth spending some time finding them. And this is the one that I found that I thought was great. And this just really changed how I was going to start working with my scenery. So this gentleman, and I don't have his name, but the name he goes by on YouTube is Scale Model Trains and Colorado's Joint Line. And I'll show you these things again at the end, the names of the people in that. So he's got a very nice video on this. And basically, I used a blue foam board, 1/2 inch to a 2 inch thick, depending on what you needed. A foam board adhesive of your choice. Now, this is what he used, and this is what really caught my eye, my wife being a quilter. Quilt Batting. And that comes in large, it can come in a large roll or just a large, 4x8, whatever piece, you can buy different sizes. White glue. And then I use a flat brown latex interior paint. Use whatever paint you want your base to be. So that's the dirt under all the scenery. Okay, so here's the quilt batting. I bought, and let's see, trying to remember, it's 4 feet wide, and I think it's about 30 feet long. I think they went by yards, 10 yards by 4 feet. It's about, let's see, almost a 1/2 inch thick. It varies a little bit. So 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. And this one, yeah, 10 yards, 4 foot wide, polyfill. It's basic batting. And the important things to remember are it's polyester, 100%, and it's low loft. Low loft is that thin 1/2 inch stuff. You don't want the super thick stuff. Okay, those are 2 things you want to remember. So, and again, polyester, low loft. Now, buy the cheapest white glue you can. Now this, if you look down here, it says washable, non-toxic, great for kids. So you might think, oh, that's not going to be good. It's washable, but it's worked out great for me. You use a lot of it. You put it on pretty thick on the batting to bring the batting down toward, onto the styrofoam, the foam board. So I bought this at Hobby Lobby. It's $12. Now, if you see that little red thing, it says your price on the label. They don't give you discounts on 40% off on anything that's got this kind of price tag on it now. So, but still, Walmart, all the rest of them, they're right around 11, 12 bucks. Okay, so getting started here, I took the foam board and I wanted to put a hill in here. I wanted a rolling hill, and use Sureform tools. This is one, and I don't think the other one looks like well, It looks more like a file. It's maybe 6 inches long, a couple inches wide, where this one's easier to work with getting little rolling hills and that. I also used a knife to carve it. So then I glued it down and let the glue set up. And here I added a little bit more. And so you can see the rolling hill slowly going up. Now, lay the batting down over it and cut it to size. Then once you do that, then you put a coat of the white glue down, and then you lay this into the white glue, and then you and you want the white glue to be fairly thick to hold it, and then just leave it go until it sets up.
Did you dilute that or just put it on straight?
No, don't dilute it. Put it on straight.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then when you're done with that, then you go ahead and you'll find some of the colors in that are a little brighter than they really are in real life. For some reason, my camera would open it up more. So, but then you just paint it, put paint on heavy. Now, I'm going to show you a series here in a bit of how I did this in another scene, but just to give you an idea of what it looked like. So this is close up. Now, the nice thing about this, you're going to put scenery over this, but it gives you texture. And again, you're not right down on top of it. You're looking at it from a distance. So you've got texture under your trees or in a field. Okay, now this is where I decided, and I did something that the gentleman on the video did not do, is I went ahead and I used the same type of paint, the acrylics, for putting a base of just greenery down on this rolling hill rather than leaving it brown. And that's what it looks like. And then I'll show you different areas that I've done. Now, you'll see right here on this side of the track, I'll do the same thing. I've got to put the paint on it. So you'll have, this will be raised up a little bit, and it'll be green also. And then you can put more greenery on top of that. So you've got something between you and the train, just a small bit of scenery. Okay, some of these I'm not really happy with some of the trees in here, but again, for some reason the camera really brightens this up, where in reality it's a little darker and it doesn't look that bad. But now you put some scenery up in here, some of the woodland scenic stuff, and it's going to blend this right into the backdrop, and you'll see that. Well, you saw that in a couple of the other ones I did. Okay, here's where I took a scene. I carved some of the blue foam board out of this area. Originally, I had coated this with plaster, and that's what I was doing, plaster coating all the blue foam. Well, that's created a lot of work for me now to clean up. But basically, this area here, I'm going to have a station. This area here, it's a little bigger than it looks here, but that will be a parking lot. Then there'll be a road coming out here, and then a road coming across the railroad tracks, and then disappearing behind a hill, and then going off into the backdrop here. We're going to have some N-scale buildings here. The rest of this is HO. And then we're going to have the backdrop just with rolling hills and fields. So that I just show you what I'm doing here. And I made a little hill out of styrofoam and glued it in. Here's the parking lot. And there's the road coming up, and it'll disappear behind the hill. So now I cut the piece of the quilt batting and get it to the size I want. I use a black marker, and then I just cut outside the black marker usually. Now, ready to put the glue down. I use a 2-inch chip I coat everything with glue. And then I lay this into the glue and let it dry. And here's a picture of it as it is without the paint on. This is just a station I've thrown in there to use. Parking lot will be here. The hill will have trees and everything on it. And this is eye level. These are 2 N-scale buildings, so they blend pretty well with the station over here. And then the road will come up and then disappear behind the hill. So I start painting it. And you see the paint's thick. I buy the cheapest paint I can get, and I just jab it in. You don't want to brush it on. You want to jab it in, because you brush it, you start pulling some of the polyester with you, and it starts breaking up the, it can break up the quilt a little bit, quilt batting. Okay, and along the edge here, I usually put the paint on a little extra thick, and it draws that down, smooths it out. But even if it doesn't, you just use a little scenery material to blend it in. You just continue on around, and I've got it finished. Now the next scene, here I've put some an open field and just a hill in the background there. Same here, the road disappears behind the hill, and the station and the parking lot will be here. And I'm showing a little bit lower, and then here's another station I've thrown in here. The colors are not, like I say, not this bright, and they blend a lot better than they look right here, because there's too harsh on my eye, to my eye. But I'll probably try taking some more pictures and replace these with something that's a little bit more realistic. So they're just different views of different angles here. Okay, now a selection of scenes across the upper deck. These are just some of the areas that I've got done or I'm working on. So now this, of course, isn't the upper deck. This guy here is he's like 6'6" or so. He's my 3rd deck man, but somehow he got a job working on the lower deck. Okay, now I'll just take you around and show you some scenes here. Now, some of the things, we cut some little buildings out, you know, printed them out, cut them out, and glued them into the scene, and farm buildings around the open hills and that. I don't like these. I'm going to go back over. They look too much like lollipops. I'm going to go back over them, lighten them up a little bit, and not make them so uniform across there. Same with this area here. Now, if you're not familiar with them, these are building flats that I'm trying to remember, King's Mill, Radical Flats. And I've got a lot of them. You can see the buildings down below are also part of that. That's on the lower deck. And these buildings are not available now, but I understand that he sold the rights to them to Senior Express. So whether they're coming out with them later, I'm not sure, but they will be, you know, if they're available, they're really nice to use. I don't care for these trees up here. Too much of the shoving the brush in, and you can see they splayed out a little too much. Now down here, you can see the track between the front and it's going through a cut, and I did that back down in here also. So it's a little hill in the front that's got the quilt batting, and then also carries on behind it and then up into the backdrop. Okay, this scene here, here's some of the areas where I thought it was a little too yellow, but it actually doesn't look too bad. And in real life, to my eye, I really like the way it worked out. This is the interchange with Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis. There's two tracks that go back behind this hill that I'm pointing at right here. And that it's dead end. I bring the trains out and I turn them on the passing siding here, shove them back in. So you'll see a couple of scenes here where this hill just goes down. Let me see. Yeah, right here. That's the top of that hill. And right here continues, and then it ends right here. The tracks end somewhere in this area behind the hill here, and then it just goes up to the backdrop. So with actual scenery placed over this greenery here, it will continue on into the backdrop fairly well, I think, and it will hide that little wall hill, if you want to call it. So I'm happy the way that came out also. Okay, this is where I ended, in just around the corner. Back in here, it's the last shot. And then this is that scene you saw with the station and the two buildings. Here is where I tried some of the different yellow, and it really didn't work out well. It's too bright. So I'm going to have to go back over this and repaint this, bring a little more of the green out. You can see more of the green I like here. There's too dark in areas and too bright in other areas. So this is a case where that paint did not work, and the Winsor Newton will correct that. But some areas you can do it, in some areas, depending on what you're doing, that doesn't seem to work out very well. So that's the end of my presentation. It's definitely, I'm not an expert in this. I picked up ideas from other people and I've run with them, and I'm happy with the way they're coming out for what I need on my railroad. But remember, right here, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right, because this is supposed to be a hobby that we can love and enjoy and share with our friends. So I've seen people, they just really get frustrated because they can't get things right. You just work on it and just enjoy it, and it should work out for you. And here's, well, this is me. If you want to, I'm happy to give you my phone number also, if anybody would like to chit chat with me at any time. My number, if anybody's writing it down, is 517-316-5660, and you've got my email address. I'm also on Facebook, and Nashville Road is the name of my railroad's Facebook page, Nashville Road. You're welcome to join that. And then here's a little more information on the people that helped me with it and some of the supplies that I used. And I'll just use that up. I'll leave that up there if somebody wants to write any of that down. Are there any questions?
I gotta ask, what inspired this paint scheme? Because it looks, especially on the F unit that you saw.
Oh, right there?
Yeah, what inspired that? It looks quite nice.
Well, thank you. I can say part of it was Wabash. And then, well, let's see. The nose up in here reminded me of the Sino passenger units, the original E8 paint schemes. And then I also like the Frisco yellow and black. And my road engines are going to be based on the the Milwaukee Road scheme. And then, well, let's see, I'd have to go all the way back to the beginning. Those Jeeps, well, you'll see them after I get off this. The Jeeps are based, the same scheme as the Milwaukee Road. And I just added these stripes. I designed these stripes on the Alps. Well, let's see, a Corel draw. and then print them out with Alps. So that's what I've got on the Jeeps that I've got painted up. And a friend painted the Jeeps for me, and I decaled them. So I don't know how fast I can go. I guess I can go all, well, no, that's not gonna help. I was thinking the Jeeps were on this, but they're not. Oh, we got the one Jeep though. We'll be able to go back and see that one. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I decaled the stripes and the name on the road, but in the story of my railroad, Milwaukee Road is part owner with the L&N. When the Nashville Road went into financial problems, the L&N and the Milwaukee Road took it over, and that gave Milwaukee, which ran almost to Cincinnati in real life. It gave them a direct route to the Gulf, because Nashville Road runs from Chicago and Detroit down to Indianapolis. And then from Indianapolis, they go Louisville, Nashville, Birmingham, and New Orleans. So that gave Milwaukee Road a route to the Gulf through New Orleans, which allows me to add some equipment in that on the railroad. So did anybody need any of that other information that was on the back page?
Where do you get your paint? The Paris-made paint. Where do you buy that?
Oh, well, with the problem with COVID right now, I've seen a little problem with some supplies, but I've been buying it at Michael's with the 40% off coupon, one at a time. They're somewhere around $10 for a tube, so you can get it for $6 or so.
Okay.
You can also, let's see, Joann's. Although I'm wondering if Joann's didn't get rid of it. I'm not sure. They still might have it, but it seems they were moving things around too. This COVID has messed things up so bad that you don't know if what's happening is going to be permanent or it's just temporary, supplies that they can't get. So, also Hobby Lobby has it's not a Winsor & Newton, but it is Grumbacher, something like that. It's a black plastic tube, but that's very good. It seems to be a little thinner. It's not as thick of an acrylic, but coloring wise, it works well. So I wouldn't be afraid of using Grumbacher either.
A hint that I got from someone is for the ground brown, whatever you want to use, is go to one of the big box stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, and look at their mixed paints.
Oh, right.
And it's a lot cheaper.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that is a good thing if you can buy the color you need. If you go to Walmart, the stuff is really cheap now. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember what I paid at Walmart. I was originally, it was like $12 a gallon. It might be a little bit more now, but I believe it's still under $20 a gallon. So, but originally I started using the ground goop, the mix of the paper mache and the zone. I use Zonalite. Vermiculite is something that people use. A lot of that's not available anymore, but Zonalite's really fine. And that, add your glue and your paint to that. But I found this works a lot better as far as getting something done quickly when you've got a whole lot to do. So that's why I was happy going with the quilt batting. So, any other questions?
Andy, how wide are your shelves?
The hills, you say?
No, the shelves that you have, the 3 layers that you have, how wide are they?
Oh, each deck?
Yeah,
Well, let's see. The main deck, I've got on my main peninsula, I have 4 levels. I have it 16 inches and it's a backbreaker. That's why we're trying to automate it a little bit more. 16 inches is Bowling Green staging. And that'll stage, let's see, 12 and 10. Yeah, 22 trains. The first level up is 31 inches and it's just perfect for sitting on those little roller chairs.
yeah,
And then my next deck up is 45 inches, but it varies a little bit, 45 to 48, that's the main yard. So that is like 30 inches deep where the yard is.
okay.
But a lot of the areas are from 1.5 to 2 feet deep.
Okay,
I don't go much over 30 inches because of the reach.
right,
So, but the upper deck is shallower, and that's so it's not overhanging too much on the lower deck. And that's up around 61 inches or so. I wish now I had brought that down maybe a couple of inches, but it works out. We've got little
Yeah.
step stools around you can use if you're gonna switch. We have one local that goes out in the morning and works all the industries, the customers to the south. And he gets just shy of staging and he turns and he comes back. So I'm going to turn this off. Stop
Okay.
share.
How many people does it take to operate your railroad, Dan?
Well, right now I like about 20 people.
Okay.
But we don't have pasture operations yet. We just incorporated a couple of pasture trains. One's a mail express and one's a pasture train. And they run across the railroad twice, one in each direction, or one in each in both directions over a 24-hour period. And the reason we did that was to get guys used to the timetable, to be on the lookout for first-class trains and such. But once we get the pasture operations going, I will probably have to add 4 to 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
For that, two working full-time in the pasture terminal, and then at least a couple of passenger crew. So
Andy, I got a question for you.
yes, sir.
And Jim may hate me for stealing his thunder. But when you're building a model, how do you know when it's done? Like, how do you get to the point where you're like, okay, you know what, that's done, I'm good with it?
Well, before I started this, everything had to be exact. I would see pictures in the magazines and I like that. I love the way the guy did this track work and that. And I was going to have a museum piece railroad. Well, I learned very quickly that you have to learn to like good enough based on what you're building or what you want to build. So if you're going to build a very large railroad, 3 decks, you can't do a museum piece railroad. But there's other things to consider. Are you going to do it yourself, or are you going to have friends do it? And then how good are they? What kind of experts you got coming in to help you? So you've got to kind of set that standard. And my standard is, if the train looks nice going through the scene and the train runs right and I'm not having trouble with the track or the engines, or the scene looks finished enough for me, I'm going to be happy with it. And in the meantime, I can have friends working, adding to the scenes if they want, or I can. My thing is more on the equipment, detailing equipment, painting the engines and the cabooses and working with the freight cars and that. But, realistically, I realize I'm 75. I don't know how many more years I've got. So I'm going to enjoy the years that I've got right now and not wait until things are perfect. I'm just going to keep plugging away and enjoy it. And it's been working out well. My friends and I really enjoy getting together running it. So
That's good.
it's
And,
probably
and that's
a
the point.
long.
And that's the whole point of this hobby, is to enjoy it anyway.
Oh yeah.
If we don't enjoy it, what are we doing?
Well, see, how many people have you heard, or you've gone to their house after they're gone, and all their stuff's for sale, and it's still in boxes? It's never been layout's never been built, or maybe a 4x8 sheet with a circle so he can just run his equipment. Always saving it for the day he can build his railroad.
I'm lucky enough to say that the people I know have at least built a layout in some form or another. I did help pack up Valley model trains out of New York about a year or two ago. That was a bit different, though, because that was a hobby store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can't say I've ever run into a case where, I've had to pack that up yet. Give it time. I hate to say it. Time is going to prove you right just about every time.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the first guys I bought a fair amount of cars from was two of my friends were taking care. I didn't know the gentleman that owned all the equipment, but he was a great Northern Pacific fan, and he collected boxes and boxes of stuff. Now this is back when Athearn was the standard. So the blue box or yellow box kits and that, but he had just a sheet of plywood down there with a circle of track, and he had all these shelves just full of stuff that he had collected in years with the idea of building his railroad. Well, I came out of there with like 600 freight cars. You're buying, $1, $2. And there's been a couple others that we've had where, the wife gets a hold of me and said, my husband had all this stuff in the basement and I don't know what to do with it. It never was a layout, But you're right. Most people try and build something, but the point I was trying to make is don't wait till that perfect day. Start something now, just to enjoy it. That perfect day might never come, and then look what you've missed.
It's actually a good way of looking at it. And some days I think, my biggest issue is I've got a business, and the space is taken up by the business right now.
Oh,
Not to say I didn't start a layout. I got tracked down. I had it wired, but for me, my business took precedence because I had a pretty large amount of stuff. I've got the inventory. I've got the space I need for packing and whatnot, and that's basically what's been taken up by the space at this point. But if you never try it, how are you going to know what it was like?
Well, I think
I look at it and I go, I could either sit there, say I never did it, or I could give it a go. And even if I'm not the best, I at least gave it my shot, and I put my effort into it, and I was willing to put myself out there to try it.
But here's something. Who are you building it for?
You build it for, well, that's actually a good question. I mean, for me, you're
building it for you. You shouldn't be setting it to somebody else's standard.
That actually brings up another good question. I haven't thought of it. Have I built it to someone else's standard?
Well, all of us want whatever we built for other people to say, nice job. That's important. But at the same time, there's so many different facets to this hobby. Now, Jim was talking about not operations, but just running the equipment he builds. And there's a lot of people like that. So there's a person that will work hours and hours and hours on a building with full interior, lighting, the whole works, so they can put it on their layout and the train runs by it. And he's just happy to have that train run by that building and several others on a street. And then you've got the other guy that he's all into operations. He might never get to the point of doing any scenery. He might be so much into operations, he's got the track laid and his buddies all come over and they run them, you know. That's what happened to me for quite a while until I decided to get some other people involved. But there's so many different facets to this hobby, you know, and that's one of the things we love about it.
It's a hobby that lets you do just about anything, and there's no one right answer.
No, that's right. Well, you know, what they say, number one rule is, it's my railroad, you know. And anytime somebody points something out that's wrong, you show them number one, you know, number one rule.
I like that rule. I might use that.
I do too, you know.
We've used that many times at our division meetings.
Yeah, that's a pretty common one. Yeah, you're right. So, well, who else? Does someone else have anything to offer? I mean, I've taken over the whole thing here.
Andy, what size is the room that your layout is in, or how large is your layout? Because it looked pretty large from the pictures there.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, have any of you, do you get Trainmaster TV?
No.
Okay, do you go to the Model Railroad Hobbyist, the magazine, MRH?
No.
The Model Railroad Hobbyist magazine is a freebie. And you're missing out on a lot of stuff if you don't at least go look at them. They come out monthly. They have video clips embedded in them. And they got guys that really delve into stuff. So, you know, if there's things you want to learn, it's not like Model Railroader that's 2 or 3 pages. They did an article in December on my railroad, and it's, was it 40 pages or 70 pages long? But they took pictures throughout the railroad and a lot of, you know, questions, me and that. If you want to learn more about my railroad, that's not a bad one to go look at, December issue. But the overall room, and it's not rectangular or square, it's kind of an oddball shape, but its depth and breadth is about 50 feet by 56 feet. So, like I say, not all of it is model railroad, and I've got the big room there. I've got this break room, and just I was showing. Let me pull this. Well, let's see. I can't do this. Let me do this. I'll get rid of this. Choose a birch and none. Okay. So let's see if I can get this cable. Everything is a mess here because we're moving everything around as we're trying to do different parts of it. I don't know. Is there any way to make my picture bigger?
You got the full screen there.
You can see it full screen?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I don't. I see it small screen, so I'm not sure what you're saying.
It's full screen.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. You can see that the half a door there.
Yep.
You know, just okay. That's a dispatcher's room. It's maybe I'm gonna have to get in there and turn the light on. It's a hell of a mess, like everything else. But I'm going to hang this for a sec. Okay, so now I don't know what you can see or not. You see the telephone?
Yep.
Okay, so the dispatcher sits at this desk. He's got that telephone. He's got an old speaker system. And then let me clear one board here. Okay, I don't know. I think I'm running out of cord. But can you see that board, the white board there with the switches
Yeah.
below the calendar, or I should say the Rock Island engine? He controls all the train order stations across the railroad. The lower area, if you can see it, shows the track plan across the railroad.
Oh,
And
yeah.
each location that has train order board, and he can control them. He can give them a green or a red. We don't use yellows, just a straight green or red. And that allows him to control the, the traffic. And they write train orders, hang them at the stations. The crews have to pick them up. Now I'm gonna, let's see, I don't know. I guess you can see this okay. This, is it close enough you can read it or not really?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah,
Okay.
just on the verge.
Okay, so the first board, train crew assignment board, it's the far right board, is the one where I add all the trains for that session. I can put, I think, 29 trains on there, and the rest of the trains are sitting over on this side, and we just keep moving the trains back and forth. They're all in chronological order, so they're easy to put over here. Then they show where they're going to, or where they're located. And then the crew assigned, they take their names down here. All the crews have their name tags, and they're magnetic, and they just put it on the train they want. And then the last column shows what kind of train it is. A switcher, a transfer, an extra freight, passenger train, and such. So they get all their information they need right on this board. And what's nice about it, I used to have to assign the trains to each of the, each train going out. I had to find a crew and assign them and make sure they got out in time. Now they can do it themselves. They know what time it's called. They know where their train's located. Their name's up on the board, so they're expected to go in and talk to the yard master or whoever it is that they deal with to get their train. So I'm going to go ahead and hang this back here. I figure out how to do this now. So that is a little bit of what, not much of the railroad, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing. So yeah, I wish there was some way to show you even just the yard in there. You could see the yard, but I've got. Nitric oxide indicators. Pardon me? Results. Oh, okay. I've got 6 railroads on this railroad. The Nashville Road is the main road. The B&O has running rights from Louisville into Nashville on the Nashville Road track from the north, and then the Rock Island has running rights from Columbia north into Nashville. And all I did was extended the B&O. The B&O ran into Louisville, so I just extended it. And the Rock Island ran to Memphis, so I extended it from Memphis over and then up using trackage rights. And the reason I did that was I've got east-west traffic on those 2 railroads, and then north-south traffic on the Nashville Road. And then we additionally, we have the L&N and then Nashville, Chattanooga, St. Louis come into the main yards with transfers. So they bring traffic in and take traffic back to their staging. And then the last one is Tennessee Central. And he comes onto the railroad. He just crosses the Nashville. He interchanges with the Nashville, and he works 2 towns on his own trackage. So that gives you an idea. We got 70-something trains on a 24-hour schedule. Some trains they run twice, like transfer trains and that. And we don't have the passenger trains yet, and they'll probably have at least a dozen passenger trains, if not more, once we get those going. The other thing is, any of you guys that live close enough ever want to come up for an operation or come up to see the railroad, you're more than welcome to. So, always happy to show it off.
Well, what we've seen of it looks really good.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's not much. It's a hell of a mess. Yeah, I can't wait to get the my workbench going with the airbrush station, and get all my tools in one location. So, try to think if there's anything else it's useful tonight. Oh, we had a house fire in '95, and I lost everything.
Ooh.
And for some reason, my magazines meant a lot to me. So, like an idiot, I spent like $2,000 getting all these magazines replaced. Right after this, before I even had a house again. And had to park all these boxes of magazines from the 60s all the way up to late 90s. Trains, RMC, model railroader, mainline modeler. Anyways, I put them in my daughter's basement, and I'll be damned if they didn't have a flood. Some boxes got wet. But anyways, I got them home. Once we moved in here, put them under the layout, and the damn things have been the biggest pain in the butt. So finally, we decided, when we started putting the carpet in here, I decided they've sat there for 20 years. I'm too damn busy building a railroad. I'm not going to be sitting reading magazines. So we're boxing them all up, and we're taking them all to recycle.
Ooh.
And that is a hell of a job, just moving them. They're so damn heavy.
Yeah.
I don't, looking back now, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but it is what it is. So the only ones I'm keeping are the mainline modeler, prototype modeler, the model railroading, and the journal, the model road journal, I think it is, just to see if they're worth keeping. The others you can get on disc, and
Yeah.
RMC, to me, there's not enough there to want to keep them, and I wouldn't know where to look for everything I need anyhow. So that's
you
one
don't
of
have
the
a
things.
library that'll take them.
Pardon me?
Too bad you don't have a library or some kind of youth facility that would take them.
They're really not interested anymore.
I know, it's sad.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You can't give them away. You take them to train shows, and a little kid might take one or two.
Yeah.
But nothing much for magazines now. And what amazed me is in the 80s, I think it is, the thickness of the Model Railroader magazine compared to now. Man, they were a tome, compared to now, and they had a lot of good stuff in them. So,
Unfortunately, that's the way of so many of them now.
yes. Well, they're all fighting for when you think about magazines are kind of on their way out. I mean, there'll always be magazines, but there's so many other different ways. The Model Railroad Hobbyist e-zine or online magazine, they can put as many pages as they want up, and they can run the really in-depth articles. And what's really cool is they can add videos to it. So you're reading this article, and then you click on a video, and you're actually seeing videos of you know, explaining what the article's about. So it's really something.
So what again was the name of the magazine you were talking about there? Because I don't know that I've seen that one.
Just put Model Railroad Hobbyist or MRH. And you type that in, and then you just go to their monthly. If you want to see more information on mine, type in or look for December 2019.
Okay, good.
And like I say, it might be 70 pages. I can't remember what it was.
Wow.
So, but you know, you can print it if you want. I did have mine printed. I don't know what I did with it, but
Yeah, there's no print magazine to do that these days.
no, it's exactly right. And they ask you to click on different manufacturers, or Fast Tracks, Athearn, a lot of them. It helps get, helps them finance the thing. So, but like I say, it's all free, and they can really delve into things in depth.
Andy, he's got an extra paid portion for that magazine too at Model Railroad Hobbyist. It's pretty inexpensive. And
Yes.
you get some additional information. And
Right.
you're right, the coverage of your layout and his was fantastic. Lots and lots of pictures. Good article.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, what do they call it? An extra, something extra?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he calls it, but
I've signed up for it.
Yeah, me too, and it's pretty inexpensive. As a matter of fact, that's going to be the only thing that I pretty much have anymore.
Have you signed up for Trainmaster TV?
Yeah, I do the monthly thing. I find that the content is sometimes good and sometimes I'm not as interested, but again, it's pretty inexpensive when you look at it. He
Right.
always runs a special too, so you can get a pretty good, decent rate if you.
I forget what I'm paying now, but it's just maybe $5 or $6 a month, and it covers both. Trainmaster.
Exactly. Yeah, it's inexpensive when you think about it.
Yeah, and they've got some good videos. I also joined Model Railroader. TV? What do they call it? Video. They call it Video Plus. Model Railroad Video Plus. And they have some good articles in that. At first, they were throwing a lot of just short stuff in there, old stuff, 2-3 minutes long, and I didn't think it was worth it. Now they're putting in longer ones that are worthwhile. But Trainmaster TV, he did a video. Joe was in Michigan, and he had asked about some layouts, and they gave him my name. My layout wasn't ready for Trainmaster TV, but basically, it was all around the fire and losing the railroad and starting from scratch. My wife didn't care for it because the very first thing is a fire truck and the siren and showing a couple of people standing looking at their burned out house. And so basically it was, where do we go from there? How do you go from there? So, he interviewed me on that, and then he interviewed John Young on our car card system. That was quite in depth, but there's very little on the layout itself, hardly anything on the layout. But so maybe years to come, we'll be able to get the railroad on a video where you can actually see more of the railroad and operations. So where do you live, Lou?
I actually live in Tennessee, and we live about 2 hours south of Nashville. I was going to comment on your rock work. Very realistic when you're driving up I-40 towards Nashville. Looks exactly like that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was very happy. As a matter of fact, if you guys want, let's see. Is anybody in any hurry to do something?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, I can let me go back to here. File. Open. No, that's not what I want. Well, I'm not sure where. Let me close this out. Start again. But you're talking about the rock work. If I can bring it up here. Oh, here we go. Evaluate, playing with scenery. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes, that's up there.
Okay, now let's see. There we go. Okay, I'll kind of fly through this to show you the parts. Now, and there's the gym I was talking about. I spent some time putting this together on how I developed the railroad. And,
Yeah.
you know, I can go into this in depth right now, but it takes a bit. It gives you a lot better idea. Here's the Chicago and Detroit at the top, New Orleans at the bottom. And these are all in this square here. That's what's on the railroad. So, but I'll be happy to put a presentation on at a later date. I wanted to find something, layout design. Well, there's a staging shot. There's a staging at the other end. So one thing we do with the 1956 steam, the Nashville to Birmingham is the last bastion of steam on this railroad. So you can see it's double-headed. This train is double-headed steam. And we'd run 2 crews. You can't double-head consist steam engines. So they have fun running steam that end, and then also the Rock Island runs from there. But okay, here's this is one of the staging, the low staging. The main yard's up here. I've got quite a bit more done than you see here. And here's the helix getting down to staging. These are all those Walder's building kits, the wall kits you could buy. I ended up with like 140 of them. And I plan someday to get somebody to build some buildings for me. So here's that area that you saw. This is the lower deck, middle deck, and upper deck. And this is the other main yard right in here. Okay, this is going into an area, well, right here, this is where the track starts its climb. It goes through the furnace room, comes out, and it's up here. This track starts its climb, and it goes across, and it goes through the furnace room and comes out up here. There's that upper staging I showed you. Here's a city scene, the south end of Nashville. And we've got a train on the viaduct, on the trestle. And then the buildings will all be here with the street behind it, the trestle. And then this is the switching area here. A lot of buildings have to be built for the sidings here. This is Madison. You guys like this because you're just off on your own. Nobody can bug you. You switch out these buildings. I'm getting these buildings built by my buddies now. Most of them have been redone now. Here's the furnace room I had to use to gain elevation.
Please,
So
for the love of God, tell me that stuff is removable.
You know what? Let me show you something.
Because I work in heating, for my day job. I work
Yeah.
the office side of it, but this is the type of thing that if we saw that, we'd go, we don't want to touch it because we don't want to break it.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting because I just had the furnace guy here yesterday, and he had to put a new motherboard in the bottom of the furnace. But right here on that pad and that pad, you can see those screws. You pull the screws out and they lift right out.
Oh, good. Thank God.
So you just walk in. I tried to show you. It's right off to my right, and I'm looking at the furnace, and they're all out of there. So it's easy to work with. But you're right. I'd hate to do that.
That's good though. That makes it a
is-
lot easiasier.
Yes, you're right. This is the main yard behind Jim Brewer here. Jim is a ProTrack user from Maryland. He came to our ProTrack weekend, and he's still using ProTrack. And some of these other guys are ProTrack guys too. Howard, you can just barely see right there. He's up from South Carolina. This guy here is from Ohio. Again, coming from all over the country and Canada. So Fran right here is a good friend of mine. It's been local. So this is Gresham Yard. Of course, you can kind of see Gresham Yard. You got the tracks continue to climb here, and the doorway into the place is right, which is right behind me right now. It's right here, and you duck under. Once you duck under, then there's no more duck unders.
Just
So
one duck under and you're good.
Yeah, exactly. The guys even bitch about that, so I had a roller chair so they could roll under it. So the tracks climb, and then up here where his elbow is the tracks. Two tracks split away and drop down into this yard, and then the main line continues around the backside and across, and then this is the end of the peninsula, so it circles. Okay, here's this is the backside of the Gresham Yard. This is the town of, let's see, Adams over here, and this is Guthrie. And the L&N comes out of these two staging tracks, and then they join the railroad, and they come across. This is the main line down here. Also, that train, I'm not sure. I guess that's a local. That's the Adam local. But the Tennessee Central switches out this year, this end of the town, and then also several buildings here and interchanges. These cars here are the interchange track between the Nashville Road and the Tennessee Central. Here's the passenger station. I'm not sure if I got a whole, because this is all about aisle space. You'll see a fair amount of Milwaukee Road equipment in that, and this is the actual model of the Indianapolis Union Station that a gentleman made. He's since passed away. The club was in the front of the actual station, and this building used to sit on the club layout. And when they had to be moved out because a hotel bought them out, they were trying to find a home for it, and they came up and saw my railroad and said, "Hey, we got a station for you." So they brought it up and gave it to me. And it's going to be raised like this, and I have train sheds on both sides, Walder's train sheds on both sides of it. So, and the scene will actually be elevated. The track will be under the scene. Here's the roundhouse on the end of the Gresham Yard. This was at the Peninsula turns. There's the low staging yard. That's the first deck. There's the middle deck and then the upper deck. So you got 4 here. Over here is the B&O Rock Island Interchange Yard. Let's call it RIBO, play off of Rock Island and B&O. And let's see. Yeah, Fred right here, he's a farmer out in Oregon, got a big farm out there. And he would come out to all our ProTrack. Jim, right there, that guy, he's the one that passed away. He designed the program. Joe here's from Florida. Let's see, I gotta go. Nope, going the wrong way. Okay, planning for operations. At the time, I had this desk sitting out in the open, and I've since built a building. I'm sorry, built a room, and that's what I walked you into. So it cut down the size of the break room a little bit, but it worked out well right there. So there's the desk you saw all the junk on. And this desk here is, yeah, the one, it sits inside there also, but it's, right now it's outside in the break room as we're putting the floor in. You can see the furnace there with the track going around it. Now I got the walls finished here. You walk into the dispatcher's office, they can close the lower, and if the guys piss them off, they just close them both and lock it. There's the desk. You see his phone, the speaker. Now this is my desk that I'm not sitting at right now. It sits inside dispatcher's office also. This is the coach yard right here around the corner from the passenger terminal. And this is the one end of Ribo Yard where the B&O Rock Island power is serviced. And this is a dispatcher, I'm sorry, the station agent. This is his desk, or its station operator. There's the panel I showed you. At that time it mounted here, but we rebuilt it and mounted it on the wall in the dispatcher's office. So he's got complete control of the signals. And this guy would sit here and write the orders and then take them and hang them wherever they need to be hung. There's a little closer up. I finally got these pieces of paper out and used a label maker. So these are all green, but they either go green or red depending on which way you've got the switches thrown. Okay, this Cedar Hill Yard, this is a smaller yard, but it's busy. It gets a lot of traffic. And the L&N power is also used along with Nashville Road power. The clock, we've got 10 clocks all mounted and we can control the speed of them. Right now, we're somewhere around 1.5 to 1. So we get like 6 hours, we'll do an 8-hour railroad session. Oh, here again, just the upper staging. Oh, another clock that's showing. The clock sitting in the dispatcher's office. And this is just showing how the clock, this was a kit. Mike Dodd makes this, and we bought the kit and built it up. And then my good friend Ron St. Laurent, he built this panel for me, printed this out and put it on. So that sits on the table in there by the dispatcher. And yeah, the local Lansing Club donated these chairs to me, which I really appreciate. So the guys can pull them off the stack and relax for a while. And there's books, a lot of railroad books and that to read. Dispatcher's office is over here. And a stairway upstairs, the bathroom right here, and the furnace room right there. If I'm too long-winded, Jim, and you want to cut this short, please let me know.
All right, it's wonderful.
Okay. Okay, all the throttles are mounted right here. We use NCE. So we've got about 20 throttles. And this is just showing the crew lounge ceiling and the lighting. Okay, layout preparation. This is back. These are early pictures I took, so the quality's not great. This yard really changed. This was basically just a passing siding with the main. And these tracks were for the gravel pit operation. And I added tracks to it and completely changed this. Took these vertical supports, moved them way back, added more plywood behind, and then made it a deeper seam. And that's this seam right here. So where this main line used to run straight through, the main line track now was one of the, I don't know, I guess it won't show you, but it's one of the yard tracks, and the main line was pushed to the back. So it looks kind of cool, the train going through it. It meanders a little bit through there. There's the station that was given to me. There's the train sheds. I've got 2 at this end and 1 at this end. So it's under cover for over 6 feet. I think maybe closer to 8 feet. The trains are. There's 8 tracks to be used in the passenger train station. Okay, layout room ceiling. Okay, drop ceiling, and then all this lighting. Luckily, the school, local high school, they were redoing it all, and all these lights were all just being chucked. I took my pickup.
Perfectly reusable.
Yeah, I brought my pickup truck over and just threw them all in there. Brought them home. I got 20 something of the 28 lights. I think I got. See, yours isn't the only place that gets hot weather now, Jim. So it's just another scene. There's a Cedar Yard. And here's where the main track kind of it has to go back and forth a few times going through here. So I really like Cedar Yard, Cedar Hill Yard. I mean, and this is Ribo Yard. Let's see. Oh, did I go the wrong way? Oh, layout lighting. Okay, the layout lighting, you can see up here. I mounted all these. These were linkable lights, and I was buying these up at about $10 a light, and I got a whole bunch of them. And the bulbs started going out kind of quickly on me, and so I bought a case of bulbs of 1,000 lights, I think is the name, 1000lights.com. And they got really good deals. So I bought a case or 2 of these lights, and pretty good. This is over Guthrie. So a lot of these buildings are just stand-ins, just to put them somewhere. There's staging down below it. Yeah, a little more of the underdeck lighting. Okay, construction techniques. I won't go into too much detail here. They say if you ever want me to, I will take a portion of this and we spend more time on it. Now, okay, this is kind of important though, track laying. And you want, if you want straight track, I found a great way to do it. And I'd be more than happy to put a program on about that. You can see I butt straight edge up against the track, and all my track and cork is all laid down with the Alex Plus DAP caulk. So the only place I use nails are in the switches area of the switches, so they're easy. If I want to pull the switch, it's easy to pull out. So this is all just showing how how you can lay the track. Whoops. And then I get into the, okay, this is putting in ties between sections of track. Okay, this gives you super elevation. I use something different now, but this is weed whacker cable or cord. And I'd super glue that under the outside rail or the ties, the outside ties. So it gives you a nice super elevation. You can see the super elevation here. You really see it when the train's coming around the bend. Mm-hmm. There it is again. Okay, fast track switches. Have any of you guys use fast track?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. I built, I think, about 40 fast track switches to replace the Atlas switches I had in the yard at one end. And I decided to mess around with the Atlas switches and see if I could upgrade them, because, I've got all these Atlas switches, and I determined for about $2.50, $3 a piece, I can upgrade the Atlas switches to the quality of a fast track switch. It takes a little bit more time, but it worked out well for me. And all I use is these copper clad ties from these frets. I just bought a stack of these frets. They're really cheap. considering. And this one here is a fast track switch. So you can see the copper clads here, and then the rest are the wood ties. If you buy those wood ties though, they cost somewhere like $7. It might be as much as $8 or $9 for the number 8s. So I decided to use the plastic ones and just use the copper clads where I needed them. And here you can see all the switches are now fast track switches with all with the wood ties. This is from the different. Well, I can show you here also. These are the 2 tracks that come down off the main, and they drop into the yard. These 3 tracks are all rival departure. So you can build your train on them if you need to, or you can run a train right out of the class track if you can. It's you know, it's whatever the yardmaster wants to do. The 4th track is the arrival departure track. I'm sorry, is a thoroughfare track to get from one end of the yard to the other. So if you're coming, you know, if you're coming in from behind us, and you got your engine back behind us to the engine house, you just run it down this track and take care of it. And then you've got 6 classification tracks. And then this track here is the drill track for the local yard. All local cars for delivery will be classified into this yard. And then the fascia track, if you want, is the secondary drill. And that allows him to pull, he builds a train, he pulls it out and places it on this track. And then the local can come down, tie onto that train. Then they can leave and then go up, you know, yeah, go up this way and on out, or go back the other way behind us. This track right here is the cab track. We call it King's Row because the conductor was king back then. So that takes care of all the track at this end. And then let's see, I think I've got a picture. Yeah, looking the other way. So again, you can see the yard, the main yard, and the local yard, and the tracks coming down, and the arrival tracks and that. They're about, if I'm not mistaken, close to 13 feet you've got. So you can build a train somewhere in the area of 25, 26, I'll make it 25 cars, including the caboose. Oh, I'm going the wrong way again. Okay, now here is an Atlas that I rebuilt. And what I did was this center portion here and these 2 rails, the point rail, it becomes a closure rail, and the frog. You can build all those separately and then drop them into it. But what you first have to do is kind of pull the Atlas switch apart and get rid of all the guts, that ugly frog and all the plastic that will be messed up because of the frog kind of built into it. Let's see. Okay, here's the down here. If you look at this, this is an Atlas switch before we touched it. And then this shows you the Atlas switch after you've pulled the guts out that you can't use. And the frog sat in here, and of course that buggers up a lot of the ties, so you rip them out. And then again, these and these here are taken out, and then you solder these copper clad ties in, and you will you know, by using the plastic, you can still get the gauge correct. And then you go ahead and you drop in or build the frog and these closure rails, and then you're all ready to go. So that's basically what you're doing. There's a little more to it than that, of course. But okay, fascia mounted ground throws. A lot of guys like these. I'm happy with these. Again, I got this idea from my buddy Jack Ozanich, who's passed, and a friend of his at B&O Modeler, O-Gauge, and I can't think, I'm not sure if it's Parker, but anyways, he used something similar to this, so I went ahead and started doing it myself. So basically, you've got the switch here. You don't want a ground throw here. You'd like the ground throw out here. So I mark where the throw bar is. And then this also, I mark both sides of the center here, so I know where the center of the throw bar is on the throw itself. And then I've got this is where I'm going to drill the hole. And I use the first of all to drill the hole, then the side cutter allows you to open the hole up. So I drill the 2 holes, and then using the side cutter, I make it a slot. And the reason I do that is you'll see in a minute, but it's so you don't get ballast and crap stuck down and stuck in the throw bar. So that's the opening right there. That's what you want. Now the next thing we're going to do is put a tube in here. Just cut a slot for the tube. Now I used a hand cutter here, but I think you'll see where I also use now a miniature, oh, I forget what they call it. It's finishing Formica edges on countertops and that. You'll see it. It looks like a miniature router though. Okay, so if the plywood's soft, it's easy to do this. If it's not, the miniature router works a lot better for you. Okay, then I drill a hole. I get the height that I want, so the tube will come out and it'll be just the top will be even with the plywood. Then I put the aluminum tube, and I like aluminum better than brass. It's easier to flex and it's cheaper. And you can buy 4-foot sections, either bought model airplane hobby shops or at some hardwares carry them. So you get it the length you want, and let's see if yeah, you want it overhanging into the hole a little bit so anything around this won't go into the tube. It'll fall down through this slot. And here also you can see I spiked it. I use hot glue now. It's just easier. Then I cut it off at the length I want. So there's the end. That's where I'll put the little piece of the wood I've got. And the wire, I use a thin wire, and I'm trying to remember what size. Might be 25 thousandths, I think, but something that flexes easy. And then you probably hear my dogs upstairs. A bunch of Chihuahuas. They sound like a bunch of drunks when one starts barking. And so then you shove that into the tube. Now here it's out here, so now you can shove it in forward and fore and aft, and you can see it'll throw the throw bar, line the throw bar. Okay, then you drop the switch down on the wire, and you can see it's underneath here. It comes out here. I've got the block down, and I use the number 1x2 pine that I buy at Menards. I like their wood, and I just curve the ends. I use a can or a bottle, whatever you want, lay it down, you get the curves. Then you mount this into the block at the right depth, at the right position. So what I do is I think I pull it all the way back. So I've got the points against the stock rail, and I've got the throw bar in the right position. And I've started using screws also, really small screws. And then, it should work both ways. Okay, Cedar Hill Yard. This was Cedar Hill Yard. And I rebuilt this all. You'll see a few things I did. There's the little road. Well, let's see.
Called a trim router?
Yeah, and just tried that. That's the Roto-Rooter. There's another one I got that's different than that. Yeah, that's it right there. That little trim router. So it's about 25, 30 bucks, something like that at Harbor Freight. So you can see, get the depth you want. So then I routed all my slots. Then I went ahead and got all the tubes back in place, and started laying the switches in. Now, I did this, laying Atlas switches back in. This is before I went with Fast Tracks. So then I went ahead and there's the boards I used, the 1x. This is just showing you how I drilled them in that. painted them, mounted them. And then I went ahead and, don't know if it'll show you. Okay, went ahead and scenic it, and now I've got to rebuild the whole darn thing with the fast track. So I got to pull it all apart again. Now this is one that's kind of cool. The switch is up here, and I use a wire and a flexible tube. And the ground throws here, but just goes up and comes around, ties into here. So you don't have to get your hand up in here. You just line the switch here. And you can do the same thing. This one here, I can have it come out and curve around and come out here. So a couple of these that are high. So, and same up here. I can have those do the same thing. No. These are Howard Humpyard purveyance, and I don't believe they're available anymore. But they're kind of hard to work with, though. Here's how they work. And I've had trouble lining the switches with them, especially if you get any ballast down in there that causes problems. So, well, it's 9 o'clock and I probably have to get upstairs. I told my wife I'd be about an hour and a half. So I would be happy to go over more of this with you, track ballasting and all this other stuff. I'd be more than happy to do this at a later date.
That's great. Let's do it. I'll send you an email and we'll schedule a time that's good for both of us and go from there. How's that, Andy?
Okay, that sounds good with me. I've really enjoyed this. How many guys are still here?
I don't know.
We've
Looks
got
like
about
10.
10. Yeah, 10 of us left. We topped out at like 17.
Oh, okay. So I bored 7. Okay. Bored 7, kept 10.
Dinner bill on a lot of them.
Yeah, well.
Andy?
Yes, sir.
After seeing the pictures and that, I know I've been to your layout a couple of times.
I think, yeah, you probably have.
Yeah,
You've been
that's
up here
probably where
before.
you know me from, and I know you, so.
Yes, yeah. You come up to Lansing for the convention.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
Yep.
So, well, you're
Still
welcome
a
up
spectacular
anytime you want.
layout there.
Pardon me?
It's a spectacular layout.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
So,
Well, Andy, I can't thank you enough for tonight. This has just been fantastic, and you've been brilliant. I just don't know any other word to use. It's just to see your layout is just really amazing, and something that many of us won't have an opportunity to see in person. But I'm looking forward to you coming back and showing us some more of it and giving us some more information.
well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. I'll be happy to. So,
Only problem I have, Andy, I didn't see a single trolley.
a single what?
Trolley.
Oh. Yeah, I hear you. They're all hanging up though, you know.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you again so very much. I can't thank you enough.
Well, you're welcome. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you sitting through all this.
Thank
Well,
you.
Well, thank
No
you
problem.
for coming with us.
Thanks
Well,
for
thank you
the
for coming out.
information.
Thanks. I look forward to seeing y'all again.
Great.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, anybody got any